This is a full tutorial on web scraping and automation for those of you out there who are not coders, want the quickest path possible to get up and running, and do not want to spend money to get started. How we're doing this is by merging together Apify and n8n. n8n is for the automation, Apify is for the web scraping. And essentially with Apify, we can scrape hundreds of different websites, pretty much any major website that you're interested in scraping. There is a solution out there for you to get started for free using Apify. In today's example, what we're doing is we're building on a system to automatically web scrape Google Maps listings. In the good old days, you'd have to do this one by one manually by coming in here and typing these down. Now, obviously that sucks. Nobody wants to do that. We're going to go through the process of automating this. The only issue is that if you wanted to, let's say, plug all of these different listings into a cold email software like Instantly or like Lemlist, you are going to not be able to grab the email from the listing in Google Maps because it only gives you the phone number. So we're actually going to take this tutorial one step further and not only scrape the listings, but then also grab the websites associated with the listings, go to those, and then find that email on the particular website as well and scrape that so that we can plug it into a platform like Instantly or like Lemlist. And so how we're doing that, of course, is through Apify. There is just so many different platforms that we can scrape. So for example, some of the most common ones that you're probably familiar with are Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or Twitter or YouTube or Apollo, which is a lead scrape, lead platform, or whatever, Google Maps. You can web scrape individual websites, and the list goes on and on and on. There's so many different categories. If you're in real estate, you can web scrape all the major real estate websites. If you want to web scrape something from news sources, you can do that, of course, through Reddit or X or Google News or Google Trends. If you wanted to web scrape e-commerce websites like Amazon or like Facebook ads or whatever, you can do that as well. And so the options are essentially endless. We're going to be covering how you can web scrape any of these. We're giving one example here, which is Google Maps. Once you learn how to do it with Google Maps, you're going to know how to do it with every single one of these, right? And so that's the beautiful thing about Apify is you learn one application and you learn all of them. The blueprints for today are going to be completely for free. So if you do want to go ahead and download these, they're going to be in the description down below. All you have to do is download the JSON file and then hit these three dots in the top right corner and import that file in, and you're going to be good to go immediately. Now, just before we get started, guys, if you are new, you should definitely take a look at the school community that I launched about a month ago. This is where you can get full access to all of my other courses, all of my videos, and of course, weekly calls where you can jump on and get help with whatever issues you're dealing with, because obviously when you're building out complicated systems like this, it can be quite difficult to get up and running. With that being said, let's get into this right now. And so the first thing that I want to do is actually head over to Apify, and we're going to sign up for an account together. And what we're going to do is just do their quick onboarding form. So I'm just going to enter in some random email here and enter in a password. And so we'll go ahead and enter in our name here and our username, and then we'll be inside. Now, you'll see down here at the bottom left, we actually get $5 worth of credits. So this is going to be our free usage. This does reset every single month. This is quite a bit. So a lot of the times these web scrapers, it's like 1,000 web scrapes per $5. So typically speaking, with this setup already, you should be able to web scrape 1,000 results. Now, if you're to do that manually, that would take you a freaking long time. Like for me to do the 1,000 results would probably take me quite a few hours. And so right off the bat, they're super generous with the amount of tokens that they give you for free. Now, let's go ahead and let's say that we want to web scrape Google Maps. So if I come into Google Maps and I type in like landscapers in Toronto, traditionally, I'd have to go through these one by one. I'd have to pull out every single company name, phone number, email address, all of that kind of stuff. And I'd have to probably enter this into a cold email campaign or maybe enter this into a Google Sheet. And that's obviously really time consuming. And especially if your business depends on cold email outreach and you're having to do this all the time, obviously this is not a good use of your time. So there is a smarter and faster way to do that, and that is Apify. So we can type into the top here under the Apify store, Google Maps. And the first thing that we're going to get is has a lot of results for Google Maps. And really, you can use most of these. For me, when I'm using Apify and finding a web scraper, I want to choose the one that has the most people using it. Typically, the ones that have the most people using it are going to be the ones that are the most stable and the most reliable. And so for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and choose the Google Maps extractor here by Compass. And so we have our Google Maps results. We can get almost 1,000 results here. It's $6 per 1,000 results, and we have $5 down here. And so essentially, what I want to do is I want to web scrape Google Maps for landscapers in Toronto instead of doing this manually every single time. And then I want to enter that into a Google Sheet. Well, I could, of course, do that through Apify and then have to manually come in here every single time. But let's say that you're web scraping every single week or every single day. You probably don't want to have to come in every single time and manually do this, because even those small tasks add enough friction for it to probably be a pain in the ass to do. And so let's go ahead and automate this process. And then this is going to be the bare bones way of doing this. And then you can supercharge this by connecting n8n into whatever applications it is you want. So we need to get this inside of n8n. So if we go over to our account, if you haven't done so already, I highly recommend signing up for an account using n8n. But I'm going to go ahead and log into my account here. And we're going to create a scenario. So let's go ahead and let's create a scenario. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by adding in a trigger. So this trigger could be a scheduler, for example. So maybe we want to schedule web scraping every so often. And so that could be in a matter of days. It could be weeks, months. But I think weeks is fine. And we can just choose once per week. So every single week, this will run. And we can choose the day that we're going to run it on, which could be Sunday. It also could be Monday or whatever. I'm going to choose Monday. It sounds nice because, right before you get into Office, you have your web scrape results coming in. You're good to go. And so the next thing is that we actually want to connect n8n into Google Maps. How we do that is we have to find the Apify module here. But you'll notice there is no module. So the reason why there's no module is because the n8n team has not built out an integration with Apify yet. One day they will, but that day is not today. So we have to go ahead and connect in the hard way Apify to n8n. And when I say the hard way, I want to put asterisks on there because it's really not that hard. It should be done. It should be able to be done in a matter of a couple minutes. I'm going to show you exactly how we can do this. So we're going to hit the plus button here again, and we're going to type in HTTP request. Now, it is worth noting that all of these actions here, and if we had Apify in here as well, that would be including here. But all of these are HTTP requests. The only distinction between these, like ClickUp or Clockify or Cloudflare or Cockpit or Clearbit or whatever, and HTTP request is that the n8n team has actually gone in and they've created these modules. An HTTP request is us just doing the legwork that n8n has already done for all of these other modules over here. So we'll go ahead, we'll choose the HTTP request, and we actually have to send data ourselves to Apify to get the results. And so how we can do it, just circling back into our example here, is we're going to hover over the API, okay, up here, and we can select API endpoints. And this is going to be essentially how we connect it in. And so this is going to be in every single one of these actors. And we have a lot of actions that we can take. And this is very similar, by the way, if we just went into Google Sheets here, for example, we have lots of different things we can do, like create or add or clear or delete or whatever. And it's the same kind of deal here, is you can take a lot of different actions. But what we want to do is we want to choose this one, which is running an actor. Now, running an actor is jargon in Apify for running a web scraper. So you're going to start the process of collecting results through a web scraper on Apify. And then when it says get dataset items, what this means is that you're going to run it and you're going to wait for it to be completed. And then you're going to retrieve those results back. And it's going to happen in one process. Typically, this takes 2 processes, but with this particular action here, we're going to merge that into one, which is very nice because it shaves off a lot of the heavy lifting that we'd otherwise have to do. And so how we can get this set up is we can hit this view API reference here. This might look a little bit scary if you guys are unfamiliar with coding, but in all honesty, there's nothing we have to do here except for just making sure that this is set to CLI. And if we see it says curl here, we can actually just import this in. So if we go back to n8n, we can just hit import the curl command here. Okay. And so this is going to essentially allow us to just copy and paste this in. So let's go ahead and let's set this up. I'm going to import curl, and we'll go ahead and just hit this copy button here and paste in here. And this whole HTTP module is now pretty much good to go. We've set up everything from the method to the URL to the headers to everything else. There is going to be a couple modifications, of course, we do have to make in order to get this working, because right now we just imported in like a generic standard action, but this isn't like tailored necessarily towards this particular Google Maps extractor. So we just need to customize it around this. So let's kind of go through this one by one, and I'm going to explain what's going on here as well. So first thing is we have a method. Method is just like the backbone of sending data back. When you're sending data back and forth between the internet, there's certain actions you can take. One thing would be creating, which is post. You could, for example, create a web scrape. You could, for example, create a contact in your CRM. For example, you could create a line or a row in Google Sheets. So I could go ahead and add or create or post a line in this particular row. So it's creating. And then you have other methods as well, but because we are creating something, we're just going to go ahead and use post, but you could of course delete as well. That's another common one that you're probably familiar with as well. And then we have this URL. This is essentially where we're sending data to. If we were to actually just send data here, this is more or less exactly where this actor is. So anytime you send data here, it's going to be received here. So this actor will run when we send data to this URL. There's just one thing here, which is the actor ID. If you guys see that, it's kind of small here, but it has like that colon and then actor ID there. And essentially, this is like boilerplate. We just actually need to delete this, and we need to put in between these slashes, we actually have to put the ID of the actor. And so in order for us to get the ID of the actor, it's actually in the URL. So this particular string or of digits here, after the actor's slash and before the slash input, that is the ID. So we can go ahead, copy that, and then paste it right in there after the actor's slash, and then before the slash, run whatever. Okay, cool. So we're making good progress here. And then we're going to move over to the JSON data here. I just want to actually talk about these headers. So this is just kind of boilerplate stuff. This is just essentially anything, like you have to pretty much add this in anytime you have a header. You're just kind of telling it what the data is, like how we're structuring the data. It's a JSON data. And the authorization is actually telling Apify, hey, this is who I am, right? So like when you log into Apify, you actually have to log in with your email and your phone number and an API key, or sorry, not a phone number, but your username or your email and your password. And an API key is like your password essentially in this. It's essentially saying, hey, this is who I am. This is my password to verify that I'm real and I'm the person that's sending this request, and it's not just some random person that's burning all of my credits over here through an unauthorized authentication. Okay, cool. So that's essentially it. We are going to have to change this, but just before we do, I want to go over to the body here, and then we'll circle back to this API key. And this is very easy to get. So with the body, we're essentially sending data. So if we take our example here, let's say we wanted to scrape landscapers in Toronto. Well, right now, we're not specifying anything about this scrape. We're just essentially saying, well, we're giving no data in this particular example. And so we'll specify the body down here is as using JSON data, and we need to paste something in here. So if we go back to our web scraper here, we can add in a lot of different data here. We can add in such as the search term, like restaurants or landscapers or plumbers or electricians or whatever. And then we can specify the location that we want these people to be located in. So for example, New York or Los Angeles or Toronto or wherever it may be. And then we can add in additional filters. Now, typically speaking, it depends on the web scraper, but I just like leaving these blank specifically for Google Maps because I don't want to limit it too much. However, you're welcome to go ahead and do so and limit it to whatever degree it is that you want. Now, the only thing that I will strongly advise is making sure that the maximum charge results here are probably like 5. And the reason I say that is because if you do not set this, you will burn through your $5 in one scrape. In a matter of 5 minutes, you're going to be out of tokens. Okay. And so while we're setting this up, we want to be hyper conservative with the amount of web scrapes that we're using because we can burn through our tokens really fast. And obviously, when you're just getting started, you don't want to have to upgrade on a software, especially if you haven't actually had enough time to test whether you like it or not. And so for that reason, let's just set this to a very small number while we're just getting this set up, running, and we're making sure that everything's actually working according to plan. So that looks good to me. The only things that I want to change here are the maximum results to 5. I want to change the location. Actually, I'm going to keep it I'm going to change this to Toronto, if I can spell it properly, Toronto, Canada. And I'm going to do landscapers. Okay. And we can go ahead, we can save and run this just to actually see if this is working or not. And as this is running in the background, okay, it's going to be loading in the results here. Right now, nothing's happened. We can see that there's essentially nothing going on. The reason why there's nothing going on is because this takes time to load, right? And now we have 3 results down here, and then we got 5. We can take a look at this person's website, for example, beyondlandscaping.ca. Cool. And this is going to, pull in a landscaper. Okay. Awesome. So we have our 5 results here, which is great. But again, if you're like me, you probably don't want to have to export the results from Apify. That seems like a massive pain, especially if you want to do automated tasks on top of this. So how we can get this automated in n8n is if we hit back to the actor, we go back to Google Maps here, all we need to do is copy this information into the JSON data here. And how we do that is very simple. We just need to move this from manual over here to JSON. And then we just copy all of this and then paste it in here. And now what we can do is we can test this web scraper and it should work out of the box. We actually got an error here. And this error is because, again, we forgot to change the authorization code here. So we need to get that API key. So when we circle in, and we're very close here, we're going to go over to settings. And within settings, now we have access to this API and integrations tab, and we can just copy in this API key here and paste it right in this token. Now, just make sure that we actually delete the whole thing, including those sideways hats as well. We don't want those in there either. We'll paste it in there and then test the step out. And it should be running. We can see that there's no errors currently, which means that it's running. We can see that everything's working according to plan. And if we come back here, we can actually see the memory down here is at 1 gigabyte. This means that currently, right now, it is running in the background as we speak. And so this is just going to take a bit of time for it to run. Sometimes, especially the more data that you're scraping, the longer this process is going to be. Now, just keep in mind, if you guys are planning on doing this with a freaking ton of data, like let's just say an absolute metric ton of data, you may want to separate these into 2 workflows. So this potentially could run into problems with Apify, where maybe all of a sudden you want to separate this process where you first run it and then later on you get the data set. And you could split this into 2 workflows. In this video, I'm not going to be covering how to split that into 2 workflows, but that is definitely an option as well, where all of a sudden you could bypass some of the issues by having one workflow that initiates the scrape just like this. Then once it's done, another workflow that catches the results as they come in. So let's go ahead and let's see what's going on here, because this is actually taking quite a bit of time. So it looks like right here, we actually are scraping way too many results. So I'm going to abort this. And for whatever reason, we can see that the exported results was 548. And if I was to refresh the page here, I'm sure my usage is going to go shooting way up here because all of a sudden I used way more. And just as I was telling you guys, hey, you probably shouldn't do this, I ended up doing that, and it ended up costing me probably a freaking ton of free credits. So let's go back and see what actually happened here, because obviously that's not ideal. So number of places to extract per search term or URL, we can put 5 here. But what I'm interested in is why this ran with 5, even though in the JSON, we should have had this set already. So max crawls. That is very interesting. So let me just see the manual options here one more time and see what's going on here, because obviously that's not ideal. That's certainly not what we wanted. Okay, so limit the number of results that you'll be scraping in this run. You will not be charged more than the results given. Well, that's reassuring, Apify. Thank you for telling me that I won't be charged more, even though I certainly was charged more, even though I put the limit in there. So that's not ideal. We'll go back to the JSON data here, and we're just going to copy this in and just make sure that, in fact, I didn't nothing actually. Oh, okay. So here we go. For whatever reason, it looks like that wasn't added in here. Let's just see if maybe it's this result here that we're pasting in this time, but I just want to see. Yeah, so it's max current places per search. And I just want to see if that's actually the right one. Number of places to extract per search term or URL. So let's go ahead. Let's try this out now. We'll test this step. And this time I'm going to monitor it pretty closely because I don't want to run into the same error again, where all of a sudden I start scraping 548 results and almost burn through all of my usage in the first run. So please don't make the same mistake that I did. Okay, sweet. So now we can see here, it scraped 5 results and that's it. Okay. And so we're done, and we have all of the results on the left hand or the right hand side over here, right? So we have the title of the place, we have the address, we have the street, city, phone number, all of that kind of good stuff. The only problem with Google Maps when you're scraping data is that this doesn't actually give you an email address. And so if I was to, let's say, go out and now try to email these people automatically, well, I can't do that because there is no email address here. And so that's problematic. So then the question becomes, how do we get these emails? And the answer is thankfully there's another Apify scraper out here that we can use. So I'm going to go ahead, save this, and we're going to duplicate this by hitting Command D there. And now we have another web scraper here. And so with this web scraper, we're going to go through the same results here. One other thing that I want to do is I just want to hit the plus button here and type in filter. And this filter is going to be such that the website has to exist. Okay, so this website string exists. The reason why is because if we were to go down the Google Maps listings here, not every single web listing has a website here. So I'm sure if we scroll down far enough, there would be some listings here that just do not have websites. And maybe it's just conveniently mentioning that they all have the website button, but they don't actually have it. Or maybe they all do, and we're just really lucky with this batch. Okay, here we go. So this one right here, Flores Landscaping, does not have a website. And so the problem is that in this next scraper, what we want to do is we want to find the email address. But for us to find the email address, we're first scraping the results, and then we're going to scrape the website associated with those results. And if we scrape a website, okay, and it doesn't actually exist, it's going to draw an error. So what we want to do is we want to filter out those listings that do not have websites, so that we're only web scraping the websites that do have website addresses so that we can find the emails. Okay. And so essentially we're going to go into, for example, something like AHS Landscaping, and we're going to go into the website, and now we're going to pull out the email address here. So let's go ahead and see. We notice that like on a website like this, they actually don't have an email address. And so sometimes what we need to do is we need to go 2 layers deep or 3 layers deep. And so we don't just scrape the first page, but we need to scrape all the links on the first page so that we can get to something like the contact page down here. And usually on the contact page, they will have a web or an email address like this. And so we need to have a web scraper that goes 2 layers deep. Now, I don't recommend probably going past 2 layers deep just because for almost every single website that I've seen out there, if they have an email address available to grab, it is going to be at least 1 page of separation between the homepage and the page it's located on. Like you're never going to have to go to like, for example, the homepage, which is if you look at Google Maps, all of these are home pages. It never directs you to anything other than the homepage. But if the email address isn't on the homepage, it's on 1 link deep. But you're not going to have to go, for example, to like asphalt repairs down here. And then on here, go to like another link on this page that like brings us to like Kitchener or whatever. And then mysteriously the email address is there. It's just always, in almost all instances, 1 layer deep. And so what we'll do is we're going to choose another web scraper here. And so if we come back to the Apify store, the next thing that I want to do is I want to type in Google Maps email. Google Maps extraction. Could also be this one too. Yeah, let's go ahead and actually use this one now. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this one and we can just pass in the URLs. So if we go back to our like web scraper, we'll notice that we have 5 results here and all of these, or at least most of these, should have a website. Okay. And so we're going to pass that website in. So how we can go ahead and do this is we're going to configure this particular web scraper now. And so the first thing is that I want to grab the URL up top here, and going back into the HTTP module, we're going to delete the first ID. We're going to paste the second one because now these are 2 separate actors. This one is for the contact detail scraper and the other one was for the Google Maps profile. Okay. And everything else looks good. The only other thing that we need to change is the JSON down here. So let's go ahead and do that. Run options. I want to do maximum cost per run. I think I'm just going to put it 1. And that way we're not spending like more than $1 on running this. And then apart from that, maximum pages per URL is going to be, let's say 5. So what this is essentially saying is that we are going to web scrape 5 pages on a URL. So if we come back to this place, there's all these URLs everywhere. How many of these URLs, once it lands on the page, do you want it to web scrape? And so for me, I'm actually going to put 20. I think that's like a reasonable amount because there's probably like 50 to 100 URLs here. I mean, these are all like even just here, this is like 10. That's like another 15. Holy crap, this website is just all URLs. But they just have so many different URLs. So how many do we want to scrape? That's the first thing. And then the maximum link depth is how many pages down the chain do we want to go? So like if we go back to this URL here, this is 1 down the chain if we go to asphalt repair. And then if we were to go to getting a quote, that's 2 down the chain or 3 down the chain, I think. I think the main page does count. Let's just see the maximum number of links away from the starting URLs that the actor will crawl. If 0, the scraper will not follow any links. So maybe I just want to include 1 in here. So it goes 1 down the chain. Okay, so this is great. Maximum pages for the whole scrape. I'm just going to put in again for now, maybe like 100. And so that means that we're getting 5 websites times 20. That means 100 scrapes maximum. So this looks good. We'll hit the JSON data, copy all of this in. And now we're going to paste this into our results here. Now, the only thing is that right now, as it stands, this is scraping Apify.com, but we don't want it to scrape Apify.com. What we want it to scrape is the website URLs that we're getting from this module right here. And so we need to essentially map or take these URLs and web scrape them individually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin the data here, which means that instead of having to web scrape the same results over and over and over again to make this work, it's just going to take the sample data and then run it so that I can use it for the next modules. I'm going to unlink this just so that we can get data to map in here. So if I test the result again and we link this back in, we should now receive the data on the left-hand side that we can use for the parameters in the middle here. If we scroll down on the schema, we have like access to the filter and then the HTTP request. And so what we need to do is find this website and then paste it right in here. Okay. And obviously that didn't work because it pasted it right at the bottom, which is not convenient. That's okay. We'll go ahead and delete that and we'll paste it where this apify.com URL is. And you'll notice that I'm keeping the quotation marks here, and that's really important. Just don't delete that, and I would keep everything else the same. One of the biggest hurdles that people actually encounter when it comes to web scraping is just messing up the JSON data. JSON data is very finicky, so even if you were to like delete that one comma, it's just not going to work. If you were to delete one of these quotation marks, it's also not going to work. And so that's very, very important to keep in mind when we're doing these kind of things. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and we will test this out. And circling back into Apify, it looks like it's using a lot of memory, and it looks like we're crawling multiple things at the same time here. So this is not looking good. Let's go back into Apify here and just take a look at the results as they come in. This might just take a couple seconds here to load properly. Okay, so we're getting an error here, and it says payment required, perhaps check your payment details. And so we're good on the free usage. It's referring to the memory here. We have used more than the memory limit here. And so what I think is going on is that we're just kind of blasting both of these simultaneously. And so we need to do one and then the next and just make sure we kind of go through these one by one by one. And so coming back in here, what we're going to do is I'm going to delete this and I'm going to set up a loop here. And so this loop is going to take all of them, go through it one by one. So the batch size will be one at a time. And we're only going to process this once at a time because obviously we don't want to run into that error of processing things or multiple things at the same time, resulting in us hitting the maximum limit in our memory down here. So we'll go ahead and test this out now again. We'll see if this is working this time. So it looks like it's at 4 gigabytes. And we'll wait for this result to come through. It's going to web scrape that first URL, and then it's going to go on and web scrape the second URL, and so on and so forth. So coming back in here, let's take a look. So it is web scraping tons of different pages here to pull out a email from the list. Okay, so we have the results, and what I want to do is just actually take a look at these. So let's see if we got an email, which we did right here. Perfect. This is awesome. Lastly, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to, I'd like to either pin these, or what we can do is just try this one more time. We'll set a limiter here so that it's only 2 results that we're pulling out at a time. So I'm going to actually just pin this data. And then we're going to add one more module here. And this is going to be a Google Sheets module. And with this, what we can do is we can either append or update. Append is just a fancy way of saying create. We're going to pull in this Google Sheet here, and we can add in whatever it is that we want. So we can put in business, name, city, niche, email, phone, and whatever other data that we want, like maybe like an ID here. And we can just go through and automatically pull all of these profiles out and then add them into a Google Sheet here. So let's go ahead. Let's find this particular spreadsheet here, which I believe is this one. I'm just going to title this n8n Google Maps Web Scrape. Okay. And we'll put in the information. We'll select the sheet 1, just because that is the only sheet here. And then we'll go ahead and add in all of the extra stuff. So maybe just like domain URL I'll put here, and then city will be over here. And then we can do maybe like the niche, or the like the particular industry. This might just be something that's hard coded. Or what we could do is pull it in from the search string over here. So we'll pull in the actual search string. So what we initially started with to find these listings on Google. And this will be all the way in that first web scrape over here where we actually search this up. And then we can pull in the email and all that kind of stuff. So emails over here, phone over here, and then ID could be whatever we wanted it to be. Maybe I'll just leave it empty. And we'll just use, we could just use like the URL's ID because that's going to be unique. So we can go ahead, we can test this out. And it looks like we're just failing on this. What this means is that when you create or update, you're giving two options there. But if you're updating, it needs to know how to first find the row to update, and how we do that is with the column to match on. And so we can just essentially put in anything that's a unique value here. That would be like the business URL or name here. And this is always going to be unique. And then we can go ahead and test this out. And this is looking like it's giving us an error here. I actually just want to delete the city here. And I'm going to put that from the main web scrape, the city that we're pulling data from. So let's go ahead and find that. Wherever it was. So I believe it's over here, the city, neighborhood, or whatnot. And we can just test this workflow out and see if it works. Okay, perfect. So that looks good to me. Although it looks like, for whatever reason, it's pulling it out every single time. So we're actually web scraping 15 different results here, which is not what we want to do. And so in order to combat this, what we can do is we're going to add an array aggregator. And this is just going to merge all 15 pages into one, because we only want one result per website. We don't want 15 results for one for every page. And so what we can do is just have the original starting URL. Actually, we'll merge them all into one. Okay, great. And so this should now work. And so let's try this out. I'm going to delete these results here. And we're just going to have to make one minor adjustment because I don't think this is going to work properly either. Okay, cool. And so now, it's just circling back here. What we can do is we can pull in from the aggregator this information, because now we're not like dealing with 15 different pages. We're just dealing with one different website. And so we'll pull in the emails from the aggregator, and then we can pull in the phone number from the aggregator as well. And then this should work. So let's now give this one last go and test this workflow out. Okay, we have our first one coming in here, and it looks like we are actually just using the same results 5 different times, because we essentially just pinned this data. So it ran through it 5 times, but it ran through the same result 5 different times. And so if we unpin this and then we tried it again, now all of a sudden it's going to scrape 5 unique results and update 5 different instances in real time here. And so this is going to take a bit of time, so I'll probably end up pausing. And so that's essentially it. We have this running. We can actually see the results coming in real time here. So we have 3 new listings here, and then we'll get the other 2 located here shortly. We just got another one coming through. And really from there, we've tested it out. It works. Everything is good to go. What we can do now is remove these limits. So for example, if we were to come back here, maybe we don't want a limit of, 5 max places. We could put this as 100 or 200 or whatever. And so we can change that because this is done. We can also change the limit here if we wanted to change the limit here. And then of course we can connect this into whatever other software it is that we want, right? So if you were to do something like cold email outreach. You could plug it into something like instantly.ai as an example, or you could plug it into something like Lemlist, for example. And this is a very popular cold email platform as well, and instantly.ai. Cool. And so those are just a couple options. And then you could take results from Google Maps, and instead of having to manually go through them one by one, you can extract it using something like n8n and Apify. Automatically add these people into the particular web scraper or into the Google Sheet, and then cold email outreach them through Instantly or Lemlist. So that's essentially it, guys, for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end, if you guys want additional help with automation or whatnot, you can always take a look at my school community here, where we have quite a few hundred people in here. This is a place where you can get additional resources, access to all my other videos, all my blueprints, and weekly calls every single week. One of the best things about this is because when you're dealing with automations like n8n or make.com or Go High Level or whatever the case is, a lot of the times you run into a ton of errors. Obviously, it's very frustrating to have to deal with those, and it's just nice to be able to jump on a call with somebody and overcome the blocker that you're facing instead of like spending 10 hours trying to solve it yourself. So thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.